Angel number 77 is not just a random number. It is one of the rarest spiritual signals a person can encounter. Because 77 tends to appear when your consciousness is beginning to separate from the illusion you once called reality. And if you've been seeing it repeatedly, on clocks, receipts, license plates, phone numbers, dreams, or during emotional moments you cannot explain, then this video may find you at the exact moment it was supposed to. Because 77 is not merely about luck, it is about awakening. And by the end of this video, you may understand why your life has started feeling different lately, why certain people no longer resonate with you, why your intuition has become stronger, why solitude suddenly feels necessary, and why your soul feels like it's preparing for something bigger. Because 77 appears when your higher mind begins activating. And once that process begins, reality never looks the same again. Since the beginning of civilization, humanity believed numbers carried intelligence. Ancient Egypt, Greece, Kabbalah, Christian mysticism, Vedic teachings, all viewed numbers as more than mathematics. They believed numbers were frequencies, living patterns embedded into reality itself. Because everything in existence moves through vibration. Sound vibrates, light vibrates, thought vibrates, your emotions vibrate, even your body functions through electrical frequencies. And numbers became the symbolic language ancient civilizations used to map these invisible patterns. That is why repeating numbers feel different when you see them. Because something inside you recognizes them before your logical mind does. Almost like your soul reacts first, before your brain catches up. And among all repeating numbers, 77 has always carried one of the deepest spiritual meanings. Because the number 7 itself has been considered sacred for thousands of years. 7 days of creation, 7 chakras, 7 heavens, 7 seals, 7 planets in ancient astrology, 7 notes in music, 7 colors in the visible spectrum. The ancients believed 7 represented completion, wisdom, and spiritual transcendence. But when the number doubles into 77, the energy intensifies. Now the frequency is no longer whispering. It is knocking loudly on the door of your consciousness. Most surface-level interpretations will tell you 77 means good luck or positive energy. But that barely scratches the surface. 77 usually appears during periods of internal transformation, especially when your soul begins questioning the reality around you. You may suddenly feel disconnected from old habits, old conversations, old entertainment, old environments. Things that once stimulated you start feeling empty. And at first, this phase can feel lonely, because your consciousness is changing faster than your environment. You begin sensing energy differently. You notice manipulation quicker. You feel emotionally sensitive. Your intuition becomes sharper. You start reading between the lines of reality itself. And this is why many people begin seeing 77 during periods of isolation. Not because they're being punished, but because their inner world is restructuring. 77 often appears when your soul is attempting to pull you inward, so your higher awareness can emerge. Because growth rarely begins externally first. It begins internally. Quietly, almost invisibly, until one day, you realize you no longer think like the person you used to be. One of the hidden meanings behind 77 is psychological death, not physical death, but the collapse of an outdated identity. The version of yourself built from fear, conditioning, trauma, approval, and survival. Because before a person awakens spiritually, they often live unconsciously, repeating inherited beliefs, repeating emotional patterns, repeating cycles they never questioned. But 77 begins interrupting that loop. It creates friction inside the mind. You begin questioning everything. Who am I really? Why do I think the way I think? What is truly important? Why does reality suddenly feel strange? This is why 77 sometimes appears during emotional chaos. Breakups, losses, career shifts, depression, existential crises. Because these moments crack open the old structure of identity. And even though painful, they often become the doorway into higher awareness. The old version of you begins dissolving, so a deeper version can emerge. If you keep seeing 77, you may notice strange internal changes happening. You may crave silence more. Crowds may drain your energy faster. You may suddenly desire deeper conversations. Your intuition may become almost uncomfortable accurate. You may feel emotionally detached from fake energy. And sometimes, You may feel like nobody around you fully understands what's happening inside you. That feeling is more common than you think, because awakening changes perception first, before it changes external reality. And during this transition, many people feel caught between two worlds, the old version of reality and the new awareness emerging within them. This is why 77 is often called a bridge number, because it appears during transitional states of consciousness, when your inner self is evolving faster than your outer life. Now here's where things become even deeper. Many people think synchronicities are random, but psychologist Carl Jung believed synchronicities were meaningful coincidences connected to the unconscious mind, moments where inner consciousness and outer reality align symbolically. In other words, reality begins mirroring your internal evolution, and 77 tends to appear during these alignment phases, almost like reality itself is responding to your consciousness. This is why many people begin seeing repeating numbers after emotional breakthroughs, spiritual experiences, meditation, or major life realizations, because their awareness is expanding beyond autopilot perception. And once awareness expands, patterns become impossible to ignore. One of the strongest meanings connected to 77 is intuitive activation. Your inner voice becomes louder. You begin sensing things before they happen. You feel energy shifts around people. You detect dishonesty quicker. Sometimes you think about someone, and they suddenly contact you, or you feel pulled toward a direction, without logical explanation. This is because awakening often strengthens pattern recognition and subconscious awareness. Your mind begins processing information differently. But here is the danger. Many people ignore these inner signals because modern society trains people to distrust intuition, to only trust external validation, external authority, external noise. But 77 often appears when your soul is trying to reconnect you with your inner guidance system, your inner teacher, the quiet intelligence already inside you. Now this is important. Not every awakening phase feels peaceful. Sometimes 77 appears during confusion, emotional heaviness, isolation, even fear, because awakening is not always comfortable. Sometimes it reveals truths you avoided. Sometimes it forces emotional healing. Sometimes it dismantles illusions you emotionally depended on. And this phase can feel destabilizing, because your old psychological foundation begins collapsing before the new one fully forms. This is why people undergoing deep transformation sometimes feel disconnected from reality temporarily, not because they are broken, but because identity reconstruction is occurring internally. The old mind is dying, the higher mind is forming, and that transition can feel intense. One of the most fascinating patterns surrounding 77 is that many people report seeing it before major life shifts, new careers, relationship endings, spiritual breakthroughs, moves, unexpected opportunities, sudden awakenings. It is almost as if 77 appears when reality itself is reorganizing around your next phase. Because internally, you are no longer the same person, and eventually, external reality begins reflecting that inner shift. This is why some people lose friendships during awakening phases, not because either person is bad, but because energetic alignment changes, your frequency changes, your priorities change, your awareness changes, and reality begins reorganizing accordingly. So what is angel number 77 truly trying to tell you? It is telling you to trust the transformation happening inside you, even if others do not understand it yet, even if life feels uncertain, even if the path ahead feels invisible, because 77 often appears before clarity fully arrives. It appears during the transition, the in-between stage, the cocoon phase before emergence. And the reason many people fear this phase is because the old version of themselves cannot survive where they are going, but your higher consciousness can. And that is the deeper message of 77. Not luck, not superstition, transformation, awareness, evolution, the awakening of the deeper self hidden beneath conditioning. 77 appears when your higher consciousness begins pulling you away from illusions and toward truth. Not everyone will understand the shift happening inside you. Some people will call it loneliness. Others will call it awakening. But your soul will recognize it for what it truly is, the beginning of your next evolution.